Barbie, Project Friendship. Before I start this review, I need to tell you that I've never seen the Barbie live-action movie. So if this game is referencing the movie, or it's supposed to be something that we know about from the Barbie canon, please forgive me for not being knowledgeable about Barbie lore. This will be the 8th Barbie game that I've reviewed since I started reviewing games 17 years ago. They are sometimes interesting and even entertaining at times. This is the second one that I reviewed for the Switch. The last one I did was Barbie's Dream House Adventure, which is basically just her showing off her house, and it had a bunch of interactive elements. This game almost took the opposite approach, as there are tons to look at and places that you might actually want to interact with, but it's all window dressing. They limit you to a few mini-games, which were basically the same. I believe they would say there are 7 mini-games, but truthfully there were 3. They reused one of the mini-games 4 times, and it was the worst one, but we'll get to that. Now I'm going to spoil this whole game, because there's a lot of the plot I need to talk about, and also so you don't have to play this. The game is about Brooklyn and Malibu Barbie, which from this point I'm just going to refer to as Barbie for simplicity. They're driving to their mom's first pet project, the Malibu Waves Community Center. This is the first time they've ever seen it, and they find it run down. They find the caretaker, who's named Letty, and she is surprised that they're even here. Maybe if she didn't have the gate closed, more people would show up. Letty's whole character doesn't make a lot of sense. She is the caretaker, but she doesn't take care of anything. They find out that the manager is going to sell the place to make it a parking lot, which actually isn't a bad idea, since even they were complaining about having to park so far away. But this wouldn't be the last time that I sided with the quote-unquote villain of the game. The girls decide to fix up the community center and basically take it over, but the way they decided on their own to fix up the place and then get all their friends on board felt weird. When the caretaker woke up this morning, did she think that she would have to deal with a bunch of kids doing her job for her? Letty was a very strange character. I was 100% sure that she was going to turn out to be the property manager in disguise in the end, and she was just playing some weird game with them. However, that's not the case. The property manager actually shows up in the end, and he's rightfully pissed at the Barbies fixing up the place that he just wants to sell. They were redesigning a whole lot of these places in this huge community center, and didn't actually get permission from him to do it. They just make the case that it looks better, or people are liking it. However, that's not the point, Barbie. If he wants to shut it down, you have no say over it. But they don't take no for an answer. They never think about the long-term effects. What happens after you leave? Or are you going to come back and stock, rotate, and repair the place consistently? I totally get why the manager wants to turn this place into a parking lot. What the manager actually should do, they should turn most of the property into a parking lot, and then keep 1 or 2 of the buildings for the community center. It doesn't need to be this huge complex. Then everybody would win in this situation. What I don't like about the Barbie's approach in this is that they don't think about the long-term effects of what they're doing. They basically remake the place to their liking and then leave. They even remark that it's a long way to get here, so I doubt they'd ever return after saving it. The game actually ends with the manager changing their minds and decides to keep the community center open because he says they're making more money. At no time do the Barbies offer to buy the place for the town. That never enters their minds. It's not like their parents don't have a connection to this place. That's the whole reason they came here. And I'm sure the manager would have sold it to them, but they would rather just redecorate, redesign, and then just say, you deal with it. I have barely gotten into this game. I need to talk about the places that they have to fix up. It starts up with the manager's office. After you clean it up, it looks like this. Does this look like this guy's office? With the makeup station and the pink furniture? This was actually one of the things that made me convinced that Letty was the real property manager. But again, she wasn't. She was just the worst caretaker of all time. I say this because she could have fixed this place up. This whole game takes place over 1 day, and there's no reason she couldn't have done it without the Barbie's help. She just didn't care as long as she got her paycheck. Now there are 6 places to unlock: the workshop, the beach, the arcade, pet rescue center, the camping area, and the amphitheater. And you can only do this by doing quests. And they're going to have you fixing up these places, which they call very run down. But the way they classify run down is very silly, because they look fine. It's not like you're cleaning it up. All these places are pretty much ready to go right out the gate. Take a look at this run down arcade. I was expecting to have to repair the walls or floors. It looks almost perfect. You're going to need to fix the electricity in order to install a crazy tech lab. Why does this arcade need a tech lab? Who knows? It's what the Barbies want to put in, and no one's going to tell them differently. The beach was an odd place as well. You can only get there by an elevator, which is a crazy idea. What if it breaks down? How do you get back up? In fact, it was broken when you got there. Letty fixes it. You know what? I am not going to ride in an elevator that was broken for months and she fixed it in an hour. When you get down there, the quests are all about ice cream and serving it. How old is this ice cream? You said you couldn't get to the beach because the elevator is broken. So how long has that stuff been in the freezer? The most confounding fix-up was the Animal Rescue Center. As you can see, it looks fairly nice from the outside. Just a moderately sized building. And then you get inside. That's not even close to the same dimensions. This feels like a completely different facility. Why not match it with the outside? The whole community center didn't make a lot of sense either. What kind of community center has a private beach, camping area, amphitheater, arcade, and a pet rescue center? Honestly, it's no surprise that this place is failing. It tried to do too much. Now, since this is one of my reviews, I'm sure you're going to be wondering one thing. What is the bathroom situation like in this game? Now, I have been showing off these grand locations, from the huge arcade to the ridiculously sized pet rescue center. So you might be thinking, the bathrooms must be pretty impressive. Alright, are you ready to see it? Here it is, a few porta potties. It's at this point I truly dropped my controller in disbelief and just started clapping at the screen. They had done it. The creators had made every wrong choice they could make. It's not that it's ridiculous that this huge center would only have 6 bathrooms, or that they would be porta potties. Here's the crazy part. This is the last area you unlock. So where are people shitting? Now, these porta potties make sense for the area. It's a concert arena, and that's something that you might see at an outdoor concert. But there was also a camping area, and the beach. Those also would have been a good place to put those. But they chose not to. They knew they had to add bathrooms somewhere, and they decided to put it in the most inconvenient place. Now, you might see from time to time broken items that you need to fix. And I was fixing them, but they reset it after an hour or so. It takes away any encouragement of having to fix it if they're just gonna break it again. You get community coins as you're fixing stuff or doing quests, which will unlock outfits. But it was very discouraging to have stuff break again. It should have been permanently fixed. Each of the Barbies have different fixing abilities. Malibu is good at fixing items, and Brooklyn is good at watering plants and giving water to animals. In order to swap them, you have to go into the office, then you can change them out. Why not let us hot swap between them with the press of a button? Both of the girls are in the cutscenes, so it's not like one of them is just waiting around in the office. It was just so inconvenient to even bother to change. It's time to talk about the minigames. I think each of them were very dragged out and not fun at all. There were really only 3 minigames. What I mean is, while the games do look different, they play pretty much the same, with really only small differences. I wish they had come up with different ideas. A quick example of what I'm talking about is that one of the minigames is tennis. The easiest setup is that you play Brooklyn and Malibu against each other, just for a fun game. Instead of doing that, you just play against a pitching machine. It just feels lazy. That is not tennis. Why not create a simplified version of that for kids? So there's really only 3 types of games, if that's a better way to put it. There was the rhythm-based games, one where you have to repeat buttons on the screen, and one where you have to put together items for people. This is the most common one. It's like the creators saw the game Overcooked and thought that would work well for a Barbie game. Playing it, I can tell you it does not. It was always dull to play, and it never made any sense. Why are we cooking microchips? Why are we heating up wires? It just really sucked. And these were often the longest games. It depended on what level you were on. You start up on level 1, and then later on it goes to level 2, until you get to the end of the game when they make you play every minigame at level 10. Talk about an endgame difficulty spike. Was that really necessary? To help you out, you can play these games 2 players, or you can play 1 player and you swap between them. Luckily, they do have an option to turn off all the minigames, and after a few hours, I happily turned this option on. They still make you activate the minigame and it will play out, but if you don't do anything, you still win with 1 star. It often had me wait 2 to 3 minutes while it played out. Why not just have the option to skip it entirely? The loading times were a real issue, since the quest often would have you go from one side of the center to the other. If you don't have the fast travel unlocked, it might be 2 loading zones to get to it. It takes about 20 to 25 seconds each time you load into a new area, which drags down the pace of the game and makes the quests even more tedious to do. The strangest quest objectives were when you had to find someone in a location. Why are we having to find anyone? Just call them! They all have cell phones! There is no reason to track them down to ask them a question. You should be able to do multiple quests at the same time, so you can get all the things you need in the area that you're at without needing to constantly come back to it. They lock you into one quest and you can't quit it. In order to fast travel, you're going to need to find a map, which were normally by the loading zones. So quite often you might as well just not even bother, because it's faster just to walk to the loading zone. If it bypasses 2 loading zones, then it's definitely worth it. They should have just had a button which would bring up your map, and then you could pick a fast travel point. Getting fast travel points was not easy. You had to do 2 quests in the area that you were doing the fast travel for. They should have made it so when you unlock the area, the fast travel became available. But no, they wait until pretty much the end of when you get out of that area. The best part about the map is that it shows you all the people in all the areas. So if you're looking for someone, they'll show up on the map and they'll show you where they are. In addition to the main quests, there were also side quests. I finished all the main quests, and I did a couple of the side quests. The side quests were the same boring setup of collect an item, go to one side of the map, and then go back to where you were. Now the best thing about this game was definitely the music and sound. There were quite a few sung songs, and they were very catchy. I wish there was an option to listen to the music tracks, and if there was, I never saw it. I also liked how 90% of it was voiced. The only time they didn't voice something was when you would click on a character and they didn't have much to tell you. Everything important was fully voiced, which was great. Barbie Project Friendship was the worst Barbie game that I played so far. And the sad part is it didn't have to be. If they had taken out the quests where you just pointlessly walk back and forth in between areas, if they had made fast travel easier and have quick swapping of the characters, it would have improved this a lot. This game is normally $39.99. And even on a deep sale, I would just say skip it. There just isn't anything enjoyable about this at all. It's a tedious slog, which kids will get bored with very quickly. If you want to play a Barbie game for the Switch, get that Dreamhouse Adventure game. It's not perfect, but it has a lot of interactable objects that kids might find fun. As for this game, you should just skip it.